So, in my opinion, Dave has the best arm lock in the world from close grip. Probably the best overall. Okay? So there's very, very little room for error. Okay? There's a very low margin of error when I'm defending. Okay? Because if I am sleeping for just a second, I'm going to get my arm popped. With an opponent who's really dominating our arm, oftentimes it's very hard to get to our bicep and defend in here, okay, and catch his leg as it comes across. So as he gets my arm, I'm going to assume now that he was able to get my arm somewhat straight. So as my arm's getting straight, he goes ahead and pivots, takes the arm, and although I can't get to where I want to, I'm just going to at least get to my wrist here. So I have some measure of safety. And I'm going to try to cup the back of his head, and now I drive my weight onto him. Okay, so I'm going to drive my near side knee tight to his shoulder. My other foot steps up right away, propping up his hips. So you see, I'm propping up his hips here. Now if I need to, I can walk a little bit. Okay, so I drive my hip in, I walk, depending on the height of his hip. If my opponent is not if his hip is somewhat low, as Dave says here, I'll even step all the way over. Because now I can keep his hip down as I rip my arm out. Okay? If his hip is very high, that's going to make me unstable, so I just keep it propped up. Okay? I drive my hips in, I keep my head down, and I'm going to rip this arm out. Okay? And I have to be explosive as I rip this arm, driving my hips, ripping this arm out. Now, obviously I have to be careful with the triangle. Most people's reaction is to make big posture here and hope that our opponent isn't good enough to shoot the triangle on us. Instead, I want to try to connect my hands and drive my head around the corner. Okay, so I'm going to try to connect my hands and come here to defend the triangle. So instead of going away from it, I'm going to come into it and use the side of my head to make sure that he can't control. Now I'm going to step and come around the corner and control his hips here with both knees. Okay, so I'm pulling, and he's almost like in a cradle. Now I use this outside knee to spin his hip, trap, control, and pass. Okay. Bragandetto is a world champion at every belt, was the one who originally showed me this, and it's come in very handy training here at AKA with Dave and his students. So Dave attacks the arm lock hard, and I catch right here. I'm catching behind his head to make it difficult for him to extend his body. Okay, so I can just cup, or I can make a grip here. Now I'm going to drive my hips into him very hard. Okay, I'm propping up his hip in the back, bringing my hips forward, keeping my head to steer his leg so he doesn't throw me in triangles and rip my arm out. Now my hips continue to drive, I rip this arm out, and immediately I drive forward, connecting my hands, trying to bring my ear towards his ear. Okay, now I'm going to step around the corner, controlling his hips with my knees, keeping the pressure, elbows tight, and now I'm just going to spin him using my knee here into the pass. Okay, one more time for another angle. So Dave takes my arm hard. Right away. Driving. My knee has to be sealed to his body so he can't come out the back door. Holding his head up off the ground so he can't extend his hip. Now I'm going to drive my head down, hips in, and rip my arm hard. My head continues to drive. I connect my hands. Okay, I start to walk around this corner, monitoring his hips with my knees. From this position, I'm going to pass his hip through, drive, control, and pass.